Others of note, Achilles. I see no reason to regale you with stories of my past. Suffice it that I fought, as bravely as I could, alongside many of the finest men the world has ever known. I buried far too many of them, and sent many others to this place, where now at last we all are peers. I am fortunate the master of the house took pity upon me, and spared me from eternal boredom in Elysium, with an existence closer to the times when I still lived, and had a job to do. Yet I am unmade, unwhole, here in this place alone without the one with whom I shared my life when we were flesh and blood. He is somewhere within this realm, yet our time, I think, is long since past. But I have made mistakes before, so many. Surely, in believing this, I could be making yet another? The infinite awaits. Given limitless time, is anything truly impossible? Yet our finite mortal time both limits us and spurs our actions. Thus, now, I am always of two minds. Orpheus. No one sings a sweeter, sadder song than Orpheus, who, if I'm to understand correctly, is among the only mortals who once ventured down into the underworld and returned to tell the tale. He now resides among us permanently, ever mournful of what could have been. The master seems to take pity on him, though, or simply likes his songs. He serves as court musician in the house. I empathize with his desire for reunion with the shade of one he has loved and lost, but sometimes I fear that Orpheus seems to have lost more than his love. I pray that he shall find his muse eventually. For if he cannot, if someone who once had such fiery resolve could be brought so low, become so utterly resigned in death, what hope do any of us have? The consolation of eternity is knowing we all can solve our problems, given enough time and effort. But the terror is knowing we cannot escape those problems either. Sisyphus. Most of those who earn the highest form of punishment in Tartarus committed acts I hesitate to commit to the page, though Sisyphus is an exception to the rule. He earns the Fury's lashes for the crime of having once outsmarted the Lord Hades, cheated death, a reckless plan, although he executed it and bought himself a little extra time. Though now he pays for it, heaving the boulder constantly, and yet the act of doing so, for some interminable length of time, appears to have imparted on him a certain kind of outlook on his life. Such as it is, one that I may do well to study in my own ample supply of time to spare. For how is it that this knave of a forgotten king, stripped utterly of his nobility and subjected to a cruel torture for eternity, can show such grace? Sometimes I think the master's carefree son takes after him, but they have seldom met, not since the master finally understood that his son would show this shade no cruelty at all. Eurycide. Mortality and immortality are closer than most gods care to believe. There are such minor gods as can be killed. So it is with nymphs, and all the naiads, and the dryads, and the like, the spirits of the woods, and seas, and skies. In life, they captivate our mortal senses and imaginations, but in death, we all are more alike. The nymph Eurycide, born of the oak itself, must know this better than most of her kind. She took a suitor who, by most accounts, was but a common mortal, talented beyond compare, but not a god. Yet all the love they shared could not keep death from tearing them apart. She bears a special mention here for having almost fled the underworld once. Such was the full-hearted devotion of her mate, that he did venture all the way into this realm in search of her, and treated with the master for her soul. They say the master almost let her go, but when he finally refused, she grieved. But she did not despair. Even in death, she moved on with her life. Patroclus, forgive me. It is not my place to say much of him now. May his name yet live. May his soul bask forever in the glory of Elysium. No more. Fear is for the weak. 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 No more. I cannot risk it all. I cannot risk it all. I cannot risk it all, can I? I have risked everything already, have I not? Then why not risk it all again? Am I to risk it all? Why should I? For my own sake? At his own expense? Doubtless he drank from the Lethe and forgot. Would I have done the same? Would I do the same? Ah, life's final cruelty that we still feel. Theseus. Oft called the greatest king of Athens, the hero Theseus is nonetheless best known for his deeds earlier in life, deeds great enough to earn his immortal soul a place of high honor in hallowed Elysium. Now he reigns in this heaven of ours, much as I understand he reigned in life, with pride and confidence both in abundance. The kings I knew in life aspired to the same, yet there is something distinctly different about him. I do not know if it was merely for pity that Theseus vouched for the bull-headed Asterius to join him in Elysium, doubtless risking his own station there. Some say Asterius is merely an unwilling servant of his now, but I know mortal battle builds strong bonds. Is it so difficult to imagine that a peerless man like Theseus might find a peer in an unlikely soul? Asterius. In life, the wretched abomination known as the Minotaur was feared across the coast of Greece. Those cast into the labyrinth in which he himself was trapped had no hope of escape. That was until the young hero Theseus entered the labyrinth voluntarily, and slew him in what was, by most accounts, a spectacular battle. A famous tale, but what happened when they reunited in death needs to be told as well. Here, they say Theseus again discovered the Minotaur, whose soul had lingered restlessly at the edge of the underworld, and Theseus took pity on him, though I think there is more to it than that. I think Theseus saw in the bullman Asterius his greatest rival. Thus he offered Asterius a seat of honor in Elysium alongside him. A just result, for their fame and glory are intertwined. Cerberus. The fearsome multi-headed hound of hell is really not so bad as his deserved reputation otherwise would lead you to believe. Yes, the massive beast has feasted upon no short supply of interlopers to the underworld, or on those attempting to escape. However, tales of the number of his heads are oft exaggerated, and in his old age, his temperament has grown much more relaxed. Indeed, he seems to be one of the sole sources of comfort for the house's grim master. The fact that Cerberus now frequently rests at his master's side also suggests the underworld has new vulnerabilities, a source of some concern to the Lord Hades, who understandably takes pride in his domain's imposing reputation. Dusa. A splendid house such as the master's own requires a great deal of cleaning, and the little Gorgon seems forever doomed to do it all herself. I sometimes offer my assistance, although it is here the little Gorgon bears her fangs, refusing any help. That I can clearly see my own reflection in our polished countertop suggests she doesn't need it either. Although she comes off as talkative, to my knowledge she has never been forthcoming about the circumstances that led her here. A background check confirms she has only trace connections to the Gorgons of Asphodel, though could not verify any connections to the notorious Gorgon sisters on the surface. The master deemed further inquiry into this unlawful, and granted supervisory responsibility to Nyx, who ensures the Gorgon's workload is always full. In turn, the Gorgon steadfastly accomplishes her duties with diligence, if not grace, perhaps finding pleasure purely in a job well done. Skelly. The animated skeleton and I, we seldom get along. He is too talkative for me, and spouts such simple condescensions to all those in earshot, seemingly as though he were an expert in the ways of war. I disapprove of his reckless advice, and am uncertain as to who he was in life, to be so self-assured in death. I am uncertain as to why he is even here. It is quite odd the master does not seem to know of him at all. Nevertheless, I sense that there is naught to fear from him, and I have to confess I admire the optimism with which he carries out his task of simply standing at attention, being beaten, often mercilessly, all for martial training's sake. My limited inquiries as to his origins have come up empty as of yet. I know only that he first appeared in the house's upper courtyard soon after the master and his son had their latest terrible exchange of words. To think, at first I thought the master set the skeleton to work. But if not the master, who? Persephone. In the underworld, as on the surface, certain topics are never to be discussed, especially in decent company. Well, this is not a discussion, and the company I keep is rather limited. So let us consider the queen of the underworld, who she was, what happened to her, and why nobody seems to know the answer to either of those questions. All matters in the house of Hades are concealed from the living and the gods above. Even here, the one piece of agreed-upon knowledge concerning the queen is the unspeakable punishment for invoking her name. I gather that her reign must have been short-lived, for there was not even a trace of her in the house, save for one remnant I once thought I saw. It was something I was never meant to see. One day, or perhaps night, I was guarding the master's hall when he threw open his private chamber doors in a fury. Then I saw her, a splendid portrait I had longed to see again since. What of the master, then?